you're looking to pick your new quarterback for your fantasy league, you hire the part-time henchman. I am Jeremy.
I'm Joanna.
Here's Casey.
And Jesse.
And we just ended a conversation nobody wants to repeat, so how y'all doing?
Yes, it was a bevy of inside jokes, double entendres, and accusations.
Oh, I think we moved into quadruple entendre for a bit there.
Way more. You're making that sound way more clever than it actually was, Casey.
Dude, we have an audience now. We got to live up to it somehow.
I think we moved up to quadruple entendre a couple times there, but how was the weekend so far? Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping, that whole balance of good luck, bad luck. I'm really hoping that I'm on the good luck side of this. Actually, having survived a practical assassination attempt by my roommate.
You're exaggerating.
Well,
yes.
he's not technically exaggerating. It was more of an ineptitude, but at the same time, a practical assassination makes it sound more like hired the hitman, dumped the gun in a good place for him to find it, yet somehow forgot to text go.
Basically, what he's saying sounds more premeditated than what actually happened.
True, but it would have been fairly effective nonetheless.
Yes.
Had I
I'm
not been
arguing
rescued.
Oh, it would have been newsworthy.
Yes.
That would have made it onto...
More negligence.
that wouldn't have been local news. That would have been CNN coverage of this kind of thing. It would have been really noteworthy.
Yeah, but something we would report it on too.
Yeah.
Because involved.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I guess the question would be, what would our response would be? Just be, oh my God, he's gone, or hey, I know that guy.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you knew. I totally forgot to bring this up in the story, but the person that rescued me from a fiery / lack of oxygen death is Felipe.
Oh, really?
Awesome.
Oh, okay.
Which is the reason why he forced me to go on Facebook and say, I owe Felipe my life. I owe him a life debt. Yes, he forced me to write this. Yeah.
You sound very sincere.
Let's just hope
yeah.
Let's just hope you choose not to repay that life debt in churros and chimichangas.
I'm going to have to figure it out. I might actually have to set up his assassination, like save him at the last minute or some shit.
How very Bart Simpson.
Like, saved your life.
Yep, saved your life. We're done. Yay! Party, party, party.
Yes, Christian. But no, that's a very old reference. Jesse, how are you?
Doing a whole lot of nothing. Watch a little Netflix. That's all.
Okay.
Watched Coco for the first time.
Which one?
Coco?
You know what? We were talking about that a little bit. I was one of the few people I know who wasn't thoroughly impressed with that film. I just kind of, I don't have a feeling about it one way or the other.
I haven't seen it, to be fair. It's on Hulu now or Netflix.
Oh yeah, it's on Netflix, and you're going to need to watch it before like April of 2019, before Disney takes all of its properties and go, we got this back!
Yeah, so it's still got that emotional impact that Pixar is known for, but honestly, some of the elements in the story were like, meh.
Yeah. You know, I'm not.
It was a predictable film. Its plot was just a little simplistic, and I think the film's real basis, with the real weight of it, was around the culture it was showcasing at the time and the background more than the story. The story seemed kind of secondary to the packaging.
Honestly, it felt similar to how I felt about Moana. It was a fantastic film. Don't get me wrong, but the culture of the culture was front and center.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. I like Moana.
I like Moana too. I even though Rock may not be able to carry the best tune, I liked his song. You're welcome.
Yeah, he made that movie.
Yeah, I wasn't wowed by Coco or Moana as films anyway. But, that's just my personal preference. Joanna, how about you? What's going on?
Finally got a job. It's a seasonal gig. I figured, it's better than unemployment, and I'll get it out of the house and have something to do. Woohoo!
Awesome.
True.
Hey, but we're collecting this fat check from this podcast.
Oh, yeah, it's fat. That's because I wrote it on toilet paper.
Where's my cut of this money? What the heck? Guys, are you holding out on me?
It's that South Park internet money.
You can have my cut. You can have my cut of this.
I think you lost it in transaction fees.
I hate when that happens. You're supposed to send it friends and family, then that way there's no fee.
So we'll just take this internet money, put it in your account, roll it over into your IRA, and it's gone!
Yeah, we're entertainers now. That is what we're qualified as, right? Being
I
podcasters.
suppose.
Are we entertainers?
It depends on who you ask. If people think we tell enough of the quote-unquote truth, maybe we can get listed as, like, reporters on Fox News or something, but,
Yes.
I like to think...
Well, you and I, Jeremy, we qualify as entertainment reporters.
Oh, speak for yourself. I qualify as a minority hire no matter where I go. I'm a quota filler.
Speaking of which, I actually do need to write some reviews tonight.
Okay.
Yay me.
Well, the week was pretty mundane as far as I go. I'm still trying to get back into the routine of physical training for my next wrestling gig. But Saturday was the pre-sale for San Diego Comic-Con badges, which I got through getting everything I needed except for one day for a family member. So that's a pretty good day.
Yeah, I sadly have to bow out of Comic-Con.
Yeah,
this
I
time
remember.
around.
But that was only the beginning of a very strange morning for me, because not long after I finished with the badge buying group, I went out to Target to pick up groceries, put everything I needed in my cart, and as I was walking to the self-checkup, I saw a lady with a very young girl in the cart, and she was ahead of me, so I just kind of shadowed her for a minute, and when she got to the back of the line, she took a look in all directions, glanced at me once, and then suddenly started to back up, and as I watched her, she got into line behind me and another lady who got behind me. So I reached back and I said, you need to go up in line. And she just said, no, I just don't want to insult you. Insult me? Yeah, I saw you looking at me when I cut you off. No, you didn't cut me off. I just didn't want to hit you with my cart. The spot's yours. So she moved ahead of me and thanked me a lot. Then I guess somebody at Target overheard what was happening, because she walked right up to me and said, we have an opening on number 11 if you got time. And I just looked at the lady behind me who's holding one thing in her hand, so I just said, you know what, you take it. And she looks at me in disbelief and says, are you sure? I'm already in line. I don't care. So she thanks me and walks away. I go across the block to Ralph's to pick up produce, because as much as I get cheap groceries at Target, I'm not going to pick up my lettuce there.
True.
And so I get all the stuff I need from there in my cart, and as I'm walking to that self-checkout, a lady at one end of the aisle stops me. It's like this older woman, and she says she needs help with dog food. And I'm already wondering, is there something about my face today? So I follow her halfway
Stop
up the...
smiling at people.
Yeah, I follow her halfway up the aisle thinking, okay, she asked the old donkey to pick up the $50 bag of Purina. No, the problem is there's something on the second to top shelf, and she can't reach it. She needs me to pull down some dog treats.
Yeah, I get that a lot. I'm tall, and it's like, hey, you can reach the top shelf. Yes, what do you need?
So I hand that to her. I'm still ruminating about everything on the drive home, and then I realize I pulled into my driveway, and it's like, it's 11:30. What is going on today?
Mm-hmm.
Sunday was much more mundane, but yeah, Saturday had me a little bit weirded out. Not because anything bad happened, but just like, is this my day to spread positivity to the universe? Did I miss a memo here?
Speaking of spreading positivity, I've been playing Spider-Man on my PlayStation 4, and I don't know if you guys have played this or not.
Oh, Jeremy has.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's my thing. When I'm playing video games, I have a hard time making the BioWare choice to be the dick or the bad guy or being mean to people and shit like that. I don't know what it is. I just can't be mean to virtual people. And I'm in Spider-Man. I'm like, okay, I got to go to Octavius' lab. I got to go take care of this and all this other stuff. And then I'll hear a police jammer going, we've got a kidnapping. I was like, that's only a couple blocks away. Fuck, I got to go do that.
Oh my God, you're actually Peter Parker.
That's actually a real life response of his. I was like, okay, well.
Yeah,
I realized that, and it has extended my game quite a bit. And every time I fail at these things, I'm like, God, I am a crap hero. I gotta do this again.
See, I think
you're a good Spider-Man.
I think you're overthinking it, because every time I hear random sirens when I'm on my way to something, I think, ooh, new crime token. I can use that to pick up some new gear. Awesome.
Yeah, see,
character. You're thinking of it as a game.
Yeah, I'm in this immersive zone where, because I get this living, breathing New York. Because I don't know if anybody has not played Spider-Man.
I've seen
the New York in it. Yeah, the New York in it is New York. There's no bullshit about it. I mean, they may fudge a couple of shops here and there, but the buildings are exactly what you should see if you stick your head out the window.
Really?
I think
because I'm pretty sure you
things.
won't find Avengers Tower or the Sanctum Sanctorum walking around New York.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's that. And I think that If I'm not mistaken, didn't they replace Trump Tower with the Fisk Building? Because if they did, that's hilarious.
I don't know. I don't know anything about the geography of New York outside extreme basics. It's not a town I enjoy standing in.
So, Casey, did you know you could find the Ghostbuster firehouse in that game?
Yes, I saw a picture of it, and I've been looking for it. I need to...
That's a bit of a misnomer because I've played the game long enough to know that the firehouse image appears in a number of different places in the city.
Oh, it's one of those copy pastings. Okay.
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I found one at the edge of Central Park, and then I found another one on the edge of the Manhattan Island itself, and I found a third one in the middle of the city.
Huh.
So it's not like it's a unique Easter egg. It's basically just a skin they put on a number of locations in there.
Oh.
Oh.
But I'm sure if you actually go to the corner where ladder 33 is, it's there.
I don't know. Again, I don't know anything about New York's geography. But, you know, I know enough about match games to know when I've seen the same building over and over.
Fair enough. And yeah, I mean, there are some things obviously it can't do. I mean, you can't have a Starbucks in there, and you can't have McDonald's, so it reskins all those. And that's what I was thinking. Man, I'm pretty sure Trump Tower is not here. Fisk Tower does have to take up some real estate.
I would give him serious props though if a McDowell showed up in their fictional city.
Wait, isn't? Trying to remember what Trump Tower was or is or.
It's worth looking up now. I bet you we could even Google it.
Didn't it used to be the Chrysler Building?
No, the
No.
Chrysler Building
Okay.
is its own thing.
Okay.
You're never going to replace
Right.
that piece of architecture unless some massive accident happens.
There's no way the Chrysler Building would get sold to Trump. I mean, he doesn't have that kind of clout.
No.
Despite how much he likes to think he does.
Oh,
wow! It looks exactly like Fisk Tower.
does it?
It does.
Oh my God! Did I just totally nail that?
I don't know. I can't say I ever cared to look, but that's
Oh my God! It's right. Spider-Man to PS4 funny moments. Fisk Trump Tower. That's awesome.
Wow. Well, that's a thing for another day. But today, the subject of the week is Domino, issues 1 through 6 by Marvel Comics. That will happen after the news of the week. And before I get to that, actually, I should warn you, the news for this week is extremely light. There's like 10 stories total.
Really?
Well, we are the week after New York Comic-Con, so there's been 2 major events of huge amounts of comic book news. I'm sure that all the companies are in recharge right now.
Right.
But we will start with Marvel comic news. That's where we talk about the properties that are currently owned by Disney and what they're going to do in the upcoming months of comics. After a week of teasers similar to the reveal of the astonishing X-Men lineup, the Guardians of the Galaxy lineup going into the new year has been revealed. These have been appearing with a tagline, "Who will stand when the last Guardian falls?" The creative team has been revealed as Donny Cates, Jeff Shaw, and the cover is going to be by David Marquez. Donny Cates is actually the guy who wrote the storyline. Did he write the total? No, he wrote part of the storyline anyway for the Spider-Man game.
Oh.
The lineup of the new Guardians is the Cosmic Ghost Rider, Star-Lord, Darkhawk, Phyla Vel and Moondragon from an alternative universe, Beta Ray Bill, the Gladiator, the guy who runs the Shire Empire right now, Adam Warlock, the Silver Surfer, Groot, and Richard Rider, the original Nova in Marvel Comics.
Fun.
You know, he was one of my guesses when I saw the silhouette last week.
Who, Rider?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, with the exception of Groot and Star-Lord, these are all cosmic-powered characters.
Yeah.
So I don't know what threats they'll be going up against, but it's not unheard of as far as the scale of enemies when it comes to Marvel's Cosmic Division. I'm intrigued by the lineup. I don't quite know what to say beyond that. I admit, though, cosmic books have not usually been my dig. I got into the Guardians of the Galaxy when they were downgraded from cosmic characters to a bunch of rogues. So I'm really glad, though, that they found a way to put Moondragon and Phyla Vel back on the board. Both of those.
And Beta Ray Bill.
Oh, Beta Ray, I don't know what he's been... Well, he's been doing some kind of monk stuff. He's been pretty much living on his own, like Thanos when he lost the Infinity Gauntlet. He's gotten involved in comics, or Marvel stories again, with the death of the Inhumans. Which has turned out to be way more morbid than I thought it was going to be. It turns out the death of the Inhumans isn't quite a death. Their being kidnapped and turned into bioweapons.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's like Maximus finally died when he was shown to be the person that was inhabiting, or the latest person, I guess, to inhabit the armor of the thing that's been killing them. They've been kidnapping Inhumans and then shoving them systematically into copies of this armor and sending them out as their new weapons.
Oh.
So we'll have to see how that resolves. I think there's still one issue left in it. Further on, when it comes to Marvel comic news, Chuck Wendig has been fired from Marvel's Shadow of Vader special over his social media presence.
Yeah,
Really?
you know what? It's bullshit.
Okay.
What happened? I must have missed that.
Okay, Chuck Wendig did the unfortunate thing. I say that with quotation fingers, as unironically as I possibly can, of introducing a queer element into Star Wars canon in the Aftermath novel that he wrote. Because of this, he's been constantly berated by nitwits online, sabotaging the ratings of the book, giving him bad reviews, giving him crap online, and he reacted like a human being normally would in this kind of situation, especially since it's leaked over into the criticism of his work in the comics. And he didn't say anything ugly. He didn't like even drop an F-bomb or even say anything stupid. He just acted like a human. And Marvel responded saying that he didn't act in a civilized fashion on his interaction with Twitter, and they fired him from his writing gig on Darth Vader.
Well, according to Wendig's own tweet, it wasn't just the people who were against him who was sending vulgarity. He also did so.
Well, I mean, the exchanges I saw on Twitter did not seem vulgar. But then again, maybe I didn't read all of them.
Yeah, he wrote in his own tweet, quote, "It was too much politics, too much vulgarity, too much negativity on my part. Basically because I was not civil," unquote. So he appears to have some kind of part in the back and forth here. He also noted that he's not the first creator to lose a job at Marvel due to campaigns of sustained harassment.
He's not lying.
So, unfortunately, he'll no longer be working on the Shadow of Vader miniseries.
Yeah, I don't know why Marvel thought that that was the way to go. I mean, I don't know how their book, a Star Wars book, a Darth Vader book, could possibly have been impacted by this collection of nitwits. I don't understand, even on a business angle, why they decided to do this.
Well, I couldn't say. I'm not working in the business.
Yeah.
So
I'm like you. I'm outside looking in, but I would love for someone to provide us some insight on why Marvel makes business decisions like this.
Unfortunately, you would never get an answer in that regard because they would refer to a human resources situation, and they're under no obligation to share internal documents with anybody, which is absolutely true.
However, if you're an insider, feel free to comment below.
No, they can't, because to comment on such would be to comment on private affairs of a company, as well as possibly impact the person who was fired and their future prospects as far as work. So nobody's going to talk about that.
I don't know about that. Being this world, everybody talks about everything.
I'm just saying from a legal standpoint, both parties would be foolish to actually say why.
No, Jeremy, I think you misunderstand what I'm trying to say. I'm saying, hey, if you're an insider, if you're not Chuck and you're not Marvel's legal HR whatever department and you know something about what's going on, feel free to let us know.
That would impact their own jobs. That's what I'm saying. It would be illegal for them to speak on such. Hey, don't mess with a guy who spends all of his time working in the legal field. The only other story as far as Marvel Comics goes is that Uncanny X-Men #1 has now racked up an impressive list of about 16 different variant covers. They're being done by people like Jen Bartel, Jim Chung, Cliff Chang, Lenil Yu, Hidden Gem variant by Joe Quesada, and a black and white Hidden Gem by Joe Quesada. No word on who's doing the art on the blank cover, though, but whatever. What? I was expecting somebody to call me out on that. Two especially caught my eye, though, and those were the variant covers by, oh wow, this is hard to pronounce, Mark Djurdovic and David Finch. And it appears that just about all the covers seem to have the same roster, so it's implied that this is going to be who the final group is at the very least. First up, Djurdovic. He seems to prefer a more painted style when it comes to his artwork, as you can see with the image here. And it has Jean Grey, Psylocke in her original body again, Bishop, Iceman, Storm, X-23, and Nightcrawler.
Cool.
Oh, I forgot Nightcrawler got some chin scrub.
Yeah. Believe me, I spent a while staring at that because my first impression was, hey, when did Beast get into this?
Yeah.
But the cover by David Finch has the exact same roster on it with the addition of Jubilee, of all people.
Nice.
And Jubilee's been seen in a couple of the different covers there. Finch is one of those guys who fairly well defined X-Men art in the late 90s. He didn't quite go the level of extreme that other people did. Most of his characters still had, waistlines and didn't use a whole lot of pouches. But I'm more curious to know what exactly the story is about, although from what we see from Solicit, it looks like a lot of what's going on is going to be early on. The X-Men are fighting Madrox, which doesn't sound like much until you realize there's hundreds of him. And after that, they'll have to deal with the Age of the X-Man there, and the Horsemen of Salvation. So it appears a lot of what they're going to be dealing with is coming directly out of their own rosters. 16 variants, though, in this age when people are more of a cynic about buying comic books, feels like a bit much.
Yeah.
Just a smidge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then again, there's always at least one variant in these groups that's worth about $125 right off the bat. It's just a matter of figuring out which one. Next up, we have DC Comic News. It's where we talk about the other major company in comics and what they're up to now and in the near future. There's only 2 stories in this bracket this week.
I'm okay with that.
First one, though, has to do with something that keeps coming up in the news. And I'm being literal when I say Batman's penis.
God.
Again.
Yeah, Batman Damned and its silhouette of Batman's junk keeps coming back in the news. I don't know if that's because people enjoy talking about it or if people just... they found something else to talk about besides Dr. Manhattan's junk. I don't know. But apparently DC executives now regret the much-discussed nude panels in Batman Damned. Simply because of the sheer amount of media attention paid to the issue as well as social media attention. According to DC's co-publisher Jim Lee, he was talking to Polygon at New York Comic Con and said, quote, "It made us certainly look at what Black Label is and think about whether these elements are additive to the story, and that's something we'll be mindful of going forward. Because I don't think we want necessarily a repeat of what happened with the first issue," unquote. I find that relatively interesting because as much as it's been talked about and laughed about, man, that's gotten a lot of buzz for DC.
Yeah.
And it's made the book...
prompted more people to buy the book.
Oh, hell yeah. Now that they've announced that in future editions of it, that particular scene is going to be edited so you can't see it, the first copy of Batman Damned is now worth about $80.
Yeah, I saw that coming.
Yeah. According to the other co-publisher, Dan Didio, quote, "It's something we wish never happened because it really took the attention away from what we thought was quality storytelling. And that's not the way we see this imprint," unquote.
Yeah, I can understand that.
That
probably is a little frustrating for the writer.
I understand the intent behind it, but that was always what I understood the Black Label was going to be. Not like, I don't know, not necessarily nudity, but more adult, grittier storytelling. And
Well, I guess it's a little too close to home for them to pull that stunt. I bet you if this was like, I don't know, Deadshot's dick, it really wouldn't have mattered.
Well, at least now we know what those trunks have been hiding all these years.
Oh, Jesus.
The only other story as far as DC comic news is that Hawkman's origin has a new twist in the Rebirth era.
Oh,
as of
This time.
Well, as of issue 5 in his current series, apparently he has been reliving past, or he has been going through a series of reincarnations, just like he has been with earlier tellings of his origin. Except now his past lives have also been experienced on different planets.
Huh.
Well, I'll just to explain my reaction to it. Hawkman's, just the phrase, Hawkman's origin has changed, has become, like, so numerous, it's almost meme-worthy.
It is, but this particular twist where his reincarnations are also extrasolar is a new one on me. You know, Hawkman's always been redefined throughout various eras because, and I'm not being cruel, I'm being frank here, none of his series have ever really stuck when it comes to readership. You know,
True.
I don't know if that's because the character and his concept of being a guy with wings and a heavy weapon is just too basic when it comes to comic books, or if it's just been that poorly marketed. But no matter how you slice it, both he and Hawkwoman, or Hawkgirl, depending on what era you're talking about, just doesn't seem to retain readers in general.
I
And
thought she was pretty popular.
well, she was popular only from the standpoint that she was in a cartoon for a while. Once that cartoon went away, so did the character for the most part.
I know a lot of people who are into her, so
Yeah. When you consider what happened to her in Dark Knight's Metal, I don't know what to say about that.
Mhm.
That sound, that disdain from Jesse. Jeez, we spent about 2 months going through that very slowly.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, it was visually impressive. I'll give you that. But
It was the comic book equivalent of being screamed at for 3 hours.
I have
Ew.
a bit of a DC nugget I wanted to discuss while we're in still the realm.
Okay.
A lot of people since the Heroes in Crisis episode, not episode, but issue came to pass, and of course we supposedly lost Roy Harper and Wally West to a mysterious killer.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been talking about the fact that while the repercussions of this have been felt throughout all the issues, and heroes have talked about the event, people only seem to be talking about Roy, with no one discussing Wally at all.
is he forgotten again?
Yes, that is a theory that now people are wondering whether Wally is dead or not, but as of this week, Wally's apparently gone and forgotten.
Well, isn't he
Huh.
getting a funeral in the Flash annual?
Dunno. But, I mean, not being mentioned at all in any of the books, while Roy is being openly discussed and mourned, and more than just the issue he was residing in, which was The Outsiders,
Yeah.
has led a lot of people wondering, okay, maybe this whole Wally death is going to get resolved in some weird way, with a lot of people pointing towards a solicitation for issue number 3, offering the clue, as this note I saw in Newsrama states, Batman and Flash combine their detective skills to investigate what went awry in the sanctuary and uncover the serious glitch in the system, not to mention an explosive, spoilerific secret. And some are wondering if this could be the secret, would be Wally West's ultimate survival.
Yeah, I don't think so. The solicits for the Flash annual say that he's holding a funeral for Wally, and 2 characters that haven't been seen in a while show up, including Bart Allen.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
So I forget what the other one was. It was an old... Oh, that's right. It's August Hart. Godspeed.
Well, they don't mention that annual in this piece, but the piece that I am reading was published. Let's see. Oh, it was published 5 days ago, so maybe that Flash annual got solicited between then? I don't know.
It was part of a sneak preview that was released by another website. I think CBR was reporting on it.
Oh, okay.
Moving into general comic and convention news. This is where we talk about comic books that are not Marvel or DC related, as well as conventions happening all around the world. I have to go to LA Comic-Con in just a couple weeks here, and it was just announced that the original Black Ranger from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is going to show up for autographs. I just got that email like today.
Oh, okay.
And as well as on Friday, there's going to be a special appearance by Tenacious D.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I actually saw them doing that hot sauce challenge on YouTube a couple of days ago.
Yeah, you know what? LA Comic-Con, after about 2 years after it started, it's kind of in this weird place. I know it lists itself as a comic book convention, but it feels more like more of a pop culture convention than San Diego does, really. It has a heavy focus on celebrities. But, you know, I'm still going to go and check it out either way. Who knows?
It'd be
But-
cool.
Stan Lee has recently finally spoken out about the strife in his life. And,
Oh.
yeah, as we've covered in prior shows, Stan Lee has had a business manager that apparently has, nearly ripped him off and potentially left him financially destitute. He's had 2 different lawyers because there was a disagreement as to which one of them actually represented him. And then he sued and then reneged on the lawsuit against his former entertainment company. I think it was called Pop Boom Entertainment. Or was it Boom Entertainment? I don't remember. But after he rescinded that lawsuit, he started up his business relationship with them again, and they're helping him run his social medias. Lee himself was recently speaking with the Daily Beast, and he said, quote, "There really isn't that much drama. As far as I'm concerned, we have a wonderful life. I'm pretty damn lucky. I love my daughter, I'm hoping that she loves me, and I couldn't ask for a better life. She's a wonderful daughter. I like her. We have occasional spats, but I have occasional spats with everyone. I'll probably have one with you where I'll be saying, I didn't say that, but that's life," unquote. I don't quite know what to make of that. That goes back and forth a couple different ways there. And he went on to say, quote, "I've decided my daughter is no longer a teenager." I think she's in her 60s.
Wow.
This money will be left to her, and instead of waiting until I die, I will give her as much as I can for her to enjoy now. And that's what I'm trying to do. Unquote. And last up, he decided to elaborate a little more on his restraining order against his former business manager, Kia Morgan. He said, quote, "I can't do everything. I thought maybe he'd helped JC. It didn't work. In fact, he turned out to be quite a disappointment," unquote. So at least we're finally hearing from the man himself and not these weird prepared statements that sounded way too much like a hostage trying to call rich relatives for help. I still don't know what to think about that. I mean, I understand who Stan Lee is, but I'm just worried that somebody else may be pulling strings at this point. I can't say for sure that this is the man himself. Especially since he always appears with a heavy entourage.
Well, I mean, he's an older gentleman, and at the same time, older gentleman of some worth.
Yeah.
And he's got to have some kind of retinue to help him out with his daily stuff. If you're rich, you're going to have a crap load of people helping you out with dumb shit.
Yeah, I just wonder if he still is. There were prior reports that said that because of what Morgan did, he's practically destitute. So I really don't know what his financial situation is at this point. And that's one of those weirdly direct questions that I don't think a lot of people are going to ask. So I couldn't say for what.
I was just going to add just, speculation. I got nothing. I just remember seeing the guy like back in 2010, and I remember that he did have this crowd of dudes around him all the time. But It's like, well, yeah, that seems normal for, I guess, somebody who's that important and at the same time that old.
I just hope he's able to put his business affairs together so that he can arrange to do some large-scale signatures from his home. I know he doesn't plan to appear at any more conventions, and at 95, I can't blame him. But if he has money issues, he needs to be able to arrange for, the goods to get brought to him for signatures.
I was very thrilled when I was playing Spider-Man that his cameo popped up. I was like, awesome!
Yeah, it was so early in the game, I was discussing it with somebody, I honestly forgot he was in it. But
yeah, I think it's because they wanted people to actually see it. And you know how some people get when they play games, they'll play like a couple of hours on it and they'll get distracted.
Yeah.
Versus like, people like us who play it till, it's done and then move on.
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out when I'm doing another playthrough, but I haven't quite figured out when that is in my schedule yet. It'll probably...
I probably will not be able to do that myself. I think it's just going to be a single playthrough, and then I'll just play the side missions until I get disgusted with it.
Well, you better...
Until Red Dead Revolver comes out.
Well, you
or
better
Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, you better hurry up, because the first DLC for Spider-Man comes out the 23rd of this month.
Oh my god.
Yep, that's the Black
They have DLC?
Yeah, there's going to be 3 additional chapters released, and the first one's already been announced as being centered on the Black Cat.
Oh my god, we've actually talked about this, and I completely forgot about it, but it's that pleasant kind of forget. When you've got, oh, well, I've got this book, but now it's over. Oh, crap, there's extra chapters. That kind of pleasantry. I like that.
Okay, usually when I have that kind of conversation, it was just, yeah, it's supposed to have happened. What do you mean you missed it? We're going to have another child? How did this happen?
I'm not touching this one.
I hope not. If you were involved in that conversation, that would go very differently. Let me see. Also, in general comic news, we discussed a couple weeks ago that DC Comics is partnering up with Rooster Teeth to make Ruby and Genlock comics. But at the Rooster Teeth panel at New York Comic Con, it was also announced that Ruby is getting a manga interpretation.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah, in addition to a young adult novel of Ruby called After the Fall by E.C. Myers, It's not known exactly when the Ruby manga would be released or even who the creative team would be. I don't even see a publisher attached to this announcement. But it is setting it apart from previous Ruby manga releases. This is going to be released simultaneously in English and Japanese. The first Ruby manga was done by Shiro Miwa, who did Dogs and Devil May Cry, released in Japan in November 2015, and then in English in January of 2018. So I don't want to dig too much deeper into that because there's actually an entire chronology there of prior Ruby manga releases. I'm just kind of impressed they're going that far. I also want to know if DC has any sort of part in this, though. Wouldn't be the first time a major comic book company has tried manga releases, and arguably Marvel did not do it well. Boom Studios has also announced that they're publishing what they call WWE Forever #1. It's an oversized one-shot featuring special tales about some of the biggest superstars the WWE ever had in the squared circle. The stories in the anthology are going to include The Rise of Bret Hart by Michael Kingston and Michael Mulipola, The Tale of Bobby the Brain Heenan and Matilda the Bulldog by Brent Schoonover, a match between Razor Ramon and Ted DiBiase in a jewelry store by Lan Pitts and Carlos Magno, and the origin of the partnership between Ted DiBiase and Erwin R. Shyster by Arun Singh and Kendall Good. WWE Forever #1 will have a main cover by Raza, who did Luke Cage, along with a wraparound cover by Kendall Good, who did The Doorman. I can't say that's awful. Comic books about pro wrestlers, though, they tend to either be really good or really awful. You know, they either capture the spirit of the whole thing and just turn it up to 20, or they just don't understand it at all.
I don't know. I think that there's some things that just don't translate very well to comics. Not in an entertaining way.
Actually, the comic book story of professional wrestling, the graphic novel, that's been actually entertaining. It's just a bunch of biographical tales about pro wrestling in comic book form.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I saw there was also a bunch of comic books released about the history of bands. And I'm like, that doesn't seem entertaining either.
Well,
I guess you have to be a fan of that particular thing to... I guess appreciate it.
When the wrestling comics are biographical, or when they're telling a story, I guess you could say that whether they're telling like a documentary style story, they can tell a pretty good part of the story. It's when they get fantastical, they get weird, like the Undertaker and Ultimate Warrior comics from the 90s, when they tried to portray them as actual superheroes with supernatural abilities of some sort. Then they went pretty far off the rails.
I remember those.
Yeah, those were firmly 90s comics, and I don't mean that in a good way. And the only other news story I got this week is that Eric Powell is going to launch a new comic book series in 2019 based on The Goon.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Powell's own publishing company, Albatross Funny Books, is going to premiere the new series. It's the first original Goon story since the character appeared in Theater Bizarre Halloween one-shot from Dark Horse back in 2015.
Okay, so we are talking about the same Goon. This is that one henchman that survived a mask attack, right?
Yes. This is also to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Goon series. Albatross Funny Books did confirm that there will be a national signing tour and limited edition tie-ins next year to coincide with the new series, including special tiki glasses, as they put it.
Oh, when this first came out, I always thought it was kind of an interesting thing. Let's see. Blah 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 blah.
What?
I was trying to find the origin of the Goon and try to encapsulate it for anybody that's listening, so they know what the hell we're babbling about when we say mask attack.
Okay. Do you think Bada Bada Buzz is a good place to start?
No. I was really hoping I was going to get this information really quick,ly, but then it's like...
I just had to ask. You sound like you were coming up with a new McDonald's theme jingle or something.
Da, 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 da. If I'm going by straight memory, what I understand is that when Dark Horse released the mask was a truly horrifying thing. I mean, if you were dealing with somebody that had the mask on, odds are you were going to get hurt or killed in horrible fashion.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. The Mask in Dark Horse comics wasn't just this zany, cartoonish character. He was an actual agent of chaos.
Yeah, he was totally screwed up. Okay. Totally screwed up. And I think that was the whole concept behind the Goon is that the Mask slaughtered the people he was with, and the goon should have died, but I guess by whatever means, he's just so damn tough he won't. That's my understanding of the character, and I could be wrong.
Okay. I never read the Goon comics. I read a few Mask tie-ins in the 90s when they tied into Wildstorm comics back in the day.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Wiki doesn't tell me anything about it.
Yeah,
All I'm getting is a publication history.
The sad part is the Goon may be too indie to have its own Wikipedia page.
That's the reason why I was like, It's like, I'm not getting the information I need quick enough.
Well, in that case, we will move on to the reading of this week, and that was Domino issue 1 through 6. This is the story of the mutant mercenary and her attempts to not go solo, but go her own way for the first time, I think would be the right way to put it. Anybody else disagree with that?
No, that's accurate.
Okay.
No, it's accurate.
All right. The writer of this series is Gail Simone. The artist is David Baldion. The colors are by Jesus Abertov, and the letters are by V.C. Clayton Cowles. And Domino usually ends up on other teams, X-Men, X-Force, and a couple other independent teams included. And she is counted on for sharpshooting, but not much else in those. In her own series, she's definitely front and center because she hasn't taken over a team or ordered one by someone else. She's put together her own small group of people to pull mercenary jobs. They're not superheroes. They're not trying to make the world a better place. They're just trying to earn some scratch while they're in between other stuff. And this leads to a bit of an adventure when her own past comes back to kill her. Quite literally. What were people's first impressions of this group of issues?
First of all, yeah, that works too. Well, firstly, I love me some Gail Simone.
Okay.
I've loved a lot of her series, and this is no exception. A lot hits the fan. Where do you want us to start?
Well, I mean, you can usually start at the beginning with these things. I was kind of curious when I opened the first issue, and the fird thing I see is a wall-eyed bulldog.
That was so cute.
Yeah.
Little Pip.
It's a hell of a hello.
I like the fact that Gail Simone's playing to her strengths. Looking at her stuff, her best stuff has been team-oriented because she writes inter-team relationships exceptionally well. She did it well. Villains, Unlimited, Secret Six, Birds of Prey, anything that's dealing with a team and dealing with not only how the team works, getting the job done or moving the story forward, but how they assess each other, how mainly their characters give a shit about each other, you know? And I like the fact that she brought kind of that vibe that I saw back in Secret Six, that whole bromance between Catman and Deadshot, happening here between she calls herself a cowboy, right? Yeah.
Outlaw.
That's right. Outlaw Diamondback.
Outlaw.
Yeah, Outlaw was
created.
Yeah, Outlaw was introduced during Gail Simone's Deadpool run.
Yeah, not only did she do Deadpool, but she also did all the Agent X issues that she was in. So Outlaw must be a favorite of hers for her to pull her out of basically obscurity and put her back into this title. And I love me some Serpent Society. Any member of Serpent Society, I will read an issue that contains them. So bringing Diamondback, yeah.
Yeah, stupid side story. I actually got into a fight with a bunch of female... Not fight, actually. I was vilified by a bunch of female comic book fans over Gail Simone's writing.
What?
Wait a minute. I'm confused.
I was just on Facebook, and I was reading a conversation between a few people that I knew in my Facebook circle, and one of them brought up Gail Simone, who was corrected by... Not corrected by a fan. The fan was speaking to her at the premiere of the Deadpool film. She was in line, and the guy was just talking to her without realizing that she wrote on the comic book. He was explaining.
Oh yes.
He was explaining the Deadpool character to her, and she thought it was kitschy. So she wrote about this guy who was talking to her about it, and didn't realize she worked on the comic books. To which a lot of people took umbrage, and I saw one conversation between a few ladies where one of them said, "Don't they realize that she started a Deadpool comic?" And that was part of the conversation, and that didn't click quite right. So I went back, checked her bibliography, and I said, well, just quick correction there. She didn't start a Deadpool comic. She came in mid-run on the comic, and then that book ended. But she did start the Agent X series, which was a Deadpool spinoff. But please, continue. I'm interested in the conversation. And that's when all of a sudden the conversation turned into, isn't that just like a man? And I'm the one going, I'm sorry, what? You know, how dare you try and mansplain? How dare you try and mansplain this whole thing to me? It's like, I'm not trying to mansplain. I just think if you're going to have a conversation, we got to have the absolute facts for a basis. You know, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. Don't gaslight this. What does that mean? You know, and it just turned nastier from there.
Oh my goodness.
You know, it kept going.
Text.
Oh, I was going to say it kept going.
Your intent and your tone were lost into the sea of text that is the internet. And just listening to the way you said it, and I was typing it in my head, I'm like, God damn, that would really seem obnoxious.
I was very upfront. I told them in the original post. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. And
but it could seem sarcastic or condescending. Because tone is completely lost.
The funny thing was it kept going until one other woman stepped in and said, he's not being a dick. He's absolutely right. He's trying to make sure that you had facts before you start going off on a rail about this evil male that even Gail didn't think was evil.
Yeah. I have to say, Agent X, I really enjoyed the shit out of Agent X, even though it wasn't really Deadpool.
Agent X
was still Deadpool.
Agent X is actually what got me into Deadpool.
Yeah, I loved Agent X just because it brought out another obscure, at the time, villain and used him a lot, and that was Taskmaster.
Yeah.
And they kind of started, or built upon that whole buddy, I really hate you feel between Deadpool and Taskmaster. I still enjoy.
Yeah, Brooks's art on that helped a lot, though. But, okay, tangent over. The first couple pages of Domino dealing with what's obviously a new dog in her life, that set the tone for this entire series, and it was really good considering it's just one character in a room by herself with a dog talking to it.
Yeah, I thought it was a good framework.
Yeah. Especially when she's talking to the dog, but obviously talking to herself about the reasons why she shouldn't have this thing. Then she keeps looking in its eyes, and like anyone mesmerized by a small animal, just decides, okay, I'll try this anyway.
Yes.
And then it feeds on her. But the adventure starts with a flashback of a bit to, 15 hours earlier in the Pacific Northwest, some kind of rural forest, where people are illegally logging trees, and for some reason it's Domino and Outlaw's job to stop them. Domino is pretty self-explanatory, even to people that don't know her thanks to movies and everything, with the exception of her skin being alabaster white, with the exception of the dark eye tattoo she has around her left eye.
I did not know that was a tattoo until this book.
Neither did I.
Really?
Me either.
How could you?
No. I always thought it was like a skin thing.
I thought it was
don't
part of
know.
a mutation.
I couldn't assume
Right.
anything is that specific.
Well, what happened is that back when Domino first appeared, she wasn't really Domino. She was being impersonated by a shape changer called Copycat. And during that run, there was a couple of issues where, well, not a couple issues, but one issue where it showed Domino working out of her uniform, and the patch, the eye thing, is gone. It's just her in white skin, leading you to believe that maybe she draws it on or it's part of a mask or something like that.
Yeah, I just never make assumptions that are that clean when it comes to the mutants in Marvel because of how many characters carry image inducers of varying sorts, and everyone has their weird insecurities.
I also have to say that Liefeld drew this.
Yeah, Liefeld is also extremely lazy, and he admits this.
Yeah.
But Outlaw is a bit easier to explain because she is a stereotypical Texas hick with a couple exceptions in the fact that she's extremely durable and very strong.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know how to describe it in simple terms, but she could probably lift about 3 tons without breaking a sweat.
And she's a good old-fashioned non-X-Men mutant, a rarity.
Well, the only thing that isn't explained to me is whether or not she actually grew out her hair, because I know for years she was a short-hair brunette who wore a wig.
Was she?
Yeah, that was revealed in the
that's
Agent X
right.
series. She wore a wig. That was her version of an alter ego.
I totally forgot about that.
It appears in this version,
Wow.
though, she did grow out her hair. I never saw any scenes where she took anything off, and she was in bathrobes a couple times.
Yeah. It's
But-
just good to see her back.
Yeah.
I love Outlaw.
The early fight with the loggers, I would say it was more interesting, except it's the introduction of our heroes. I assumed everything was going to go well. But where this book really sets itself apart is that Simone is probably the first writer that's tried to put words to the sensation of Domino's powers in effect.
Yeah. I like the fact that it took Gail Simone to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in most of their comics, it's just portrayed as everything Domino tries just comes up roses. In this case, she puts a tactile sensation to it as well as the possible downsides to what happens when things go her way. And in this case, not everything is perfect.
And Domino's been around for decades now,
Mm-hmm.
and this is not her first shot at a solo series.
Yeah, I want to say she was introduced.
Complete sidebar. The last solo series she had, the artist in it was exceptionally good, and I really feel bad that I can't remember their name. Something to look up later.
Yeah, I mean, David Baldion is not my cup of tea. It took a little bit to get into, but the more I read the series, the more I realized Baldion's art fits the tone that Simone put together here.
Agreed. I completely agree with the way you size that up, because there are some surreality, if that's a word, to some of his drawings, especially when you're dealing with facial expressions, jaw lines, and whatnot. They get a little crazy. It still works.
Yeah. I think Simone's tone is really well summed up in the early scene where Outlaw decides without Domino's permission to grab her for a fastball special.
Yeah.
By which
Great.
she grabs the hanging straps in her costume and just flings her, and the inner monologue says, "I hate the fastball special. I always get costume write-up."
It's little things like that that you don't think of.
Oh yeah, I mean, usually when it's done between characters, it's Colossus flinging Wolverine. He's got him, he's got his hands under his boot or his ass and just kind of hucks him. In this case, Outlaw unceremoniously just grabbed parts of her costume while she was still saying no and just kind of flung her in the general direction.
Yeah. I think it happens less and less between female characters. I don't know what it is, but, usually it's male characters throwing each other about.
I could have sworn I think it was an X-23, that they called it a Canadian fastball.
Yes.
But
it's something special when the strong guy becomes the ball.
yeah,
Yeah.
There's minor variations on all kinds of things. The appearance of Diamondback, though, first of all, blowing up something in the distance, they don't mention her by name until she shows up in a Hummer of all vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And she looks like she's on her way to a formal superhero ball.
Always fashionable.
Oh, the long black coat, the diamonds acting as buttons and cufflinks, as well as being just picture perfect in the rain. It's a little disturbing.
Rachel's gotten a lot classier in her older age.
Older age? You mean since she did Captain America?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how she was turned into the equestrian of this group compared to the roughneck she used to be.
I think the idea behind Rachel Layton has been kind of mercurial. I don't think anybody's really nailed her personality down beyond I'm Captain America's girlfriend. I'm Captain America's ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Now I'm Constrictor's girlfriend. Now I'm Constrictor's weeping
Widow.
Semi-widow?
Widow is the word, yeah.
Yeah. Damn, that was a rough storyline too, and Rachel's in the middle of all that. So yeah, she's had some growing points, but since she's a villain, by and part, no one ever stays on her long enough to give her character development.
Well, that's another one of those unsung talents that Gail Simone has, is elevation. She manages to take characters who are on the periphery of the big company's radar and are being generally unused or underused, and really give them a spotlight and ability to shine. Because as much as this is Domino's book, Outlaw and Diamondback both have some pretty key moments in this series.
You're absolutely right, and that's one of the reasons why I love her so much, because I love me some B-rated, C-rated, and even D-rated heroes, because I know they've got potential, but no one gives them the damn spotlight except Gail Simone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, and who else is going to write when the three ladies show up at Domino's flat for a surprise birthday party for the title character? Deadpool's off to the side and says, "I'm in charge of the music. I tried to get an Air Supply cover band, but all the agency had was the real Air Supply, so I said, screw that noise."
I love Deadpool. He's so great.
And Dazzler was the singer, And throughout the party, not only was it a good show of the different characters in Domino's orbit, but also what really drives her and the hidden things that she has underneath. Everybody portrays Domino as so happy-go-lucky. No one thinks about the trauma of a character that was basically a eugenics experiment to create a weapon, like the Weapon X project.
Mm-hmm.
And man, did Simone go the extra mile in portraying the PTSD she's been hiding for all this time.
Yeah.
So a little bit later on, we find out that the dog that she's been gifted is named Pip, just like the mark
cute.
on a domino. And everyone decides to leave her for some quiet time, which is when she finds out that there's a couple people that apparently were in the restroom in her bedroom. A man and a woman. And the redhead has... I don't even know how to explain the anger that David Baldian put into the art here. It's not smoldering anger, it's not raging anger, it's just complete.
It's daggers. It's piercing, spiky daggers.
Mm-hmm. It's utter disdain, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the person that attacks is the red-headed nurse, who is called Topaz, which is known in the mercenary circles as somebody who hasn't left anyone alive.
Yep.
And she has the ability to turn off Domino's luck abilities before she threw her through a window.
Unfortunate.
About 20 stories up.
Gotta love birthday parties, man.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a hell of a way to introduce people to a character that's super lucky, but without that luck, she's very positive she's going to die in the next few seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a complete turning of the tables compared to just about everything anybody has seen this character in before.
Yeah, and I like how she gets out of it. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it, but I was happy to see Spidey. Swings in, and she's like, "Oh, hello, little rat," because she calls like that tingling, creeping feeling of her ability, the little
like a mouse that
little
crawls
rat
up her
on her
spine.
back.
Yeah.
You're a mouse or a rat?
Well, I mean, she calls it a mouse
Sure,
because it generally feels like this small tingling sensation running up her back. Sometimes it can be as violent as a rat, like clawing at it when it's trying to, or when it's overpowered, like it is here.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, it was almost comical when Topaz turned off her ability so Domino had her luck again, and she's saved by Spider-Man swinging by, which is even more bizarre when you consider that this is Spider-Man in San Francisco.
Yeah. It's like, what are you doing here, even?
Yeah.
He even comments, I don't really like San Francisco. Lack of skyscrapers. Like, yeah, that would suck.
Yeah, still doesn't explain why you're here, but what the frick ever.
Doing Spidey things.
yeah.
Don't question it.
Well, let alone, I enjoyed that everybody in the party responded to what was going on. Topaz and her charge will not run. And Deadpool tries to dispel the idea that these are superheroes who are just going to turn them in by saying, "We're not the Avengers. Hey everybody, fun game. Raise your hand if you bash these tapeworms and pitch them in the trash chute just right about damn now." And everyone to a man raises a hand. Which turns out to be a little terrifying when you're staring at characters like Storm and Colossus and Cable and Dazzler and Psylocke. Pixie! And I assume that's the ape man in the back there.
They done messed up.
You done goofed.
It's not a good place to be. And then when Topaz's charge mentions that her powers can throw mutant abilities into overdrive or turn them off completely, Diamondback decides to respond with the fact that some people in this room don't have powers.
Yeah. Like, oh, well, sucks for everybody else,
Yeah.
but it's a good thing that I don't have that weakness.
Another power of Gail Simone's writing is she really knows how to do the quiet times as well. When Diamondback and Outlaw catch up with Domino on the rooftop and talk her down from a very dark space, that had an emotional charge I wasn't looking for.
Yeah, I feel like the action and the down scenes were both very well executed,
Yeah.
and that was one of them. And of course, Domino's like, "Yeah, I'm fine, okay, yeah,
No,
whatever."
not.
No,
And you know she's not. And then it cuts to scenes where you see what she's seeing, and you're like, she's really not okay.
yeah. And the way she decides to try and get her confidence back the next day with a jog in Golden Gate Park with Amadeus Cho.
Yeah, a little bit of a setup.
Oh, it's more than a little bit. And she knew that
Yes.
people were getting robbed in the early morning jogs in the park, so she decided to go on a jog just so she can get a little bit of calisthenics in.
We have an army. Huh, we've got a Hulk. That's basically what she pulled.
Yeah, but she's the one who did it. She decided not to pull the trigger on the Hulk she was jogging with. Because that wasn't the point.
No, it was for, what did she call it? Therapeutic exercise?
Mm-hmm.
Misplaced aggression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also a little bit of proof to herself that not everything she does has to do with her luck.
I love how they kind of show that off.
Yeah. Baldeon really has a dynamic style. Like I said, his art isn't quite my cup of tea, but when it comes to action, he's better than most at it, I think. It's kind of hard to explain from a static storytelling, but a lot of what he does actually has impact and energy to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Domino is asking Amadeus Cho along in the next job because she's concerned that one of her personal friends there is giving away her position to Topaz. Because too many
Right.
things have happened in too short an amount of time.
Right, because there's only, 3 people who knew what they were going to be doing and where and when, and then Topaz shows up at both places.
Mm-hmm.
Little suspicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next job on the riverboat, though, I don't know. Every time somebody was talking, I was expecting someone else to show up and say, "I've got new KFC, $5 buckets."
Oh boy. It's just because of Riverboat.
Well, the owner
Isn't it?
didn't help. He looked like Colonel Sanders with more dye.
That's fair. That's a fair point.
And it turns out that the job that they got themselves involved in was an inside job. Some of the actual staff of the riverboat were the ones trying to rip it off with plastic guns.
Yeah, that wasn't smart to do.
Well, it didn't help that Domino's in a very bad place mentally. She's not looking really to make friends at this moment.
No.
And she did it with style, but it also turned out that Topaz and her charge were there again, and they planted a bomb in the transportation, the ferry that was supposed to get them off the boat. And it did look like they had set it off with everybody still aboard, but yeah, you read enough comic books, you know that's probably not what happened.
Yeah.
Issue 3 had to do a lot with Domino's history. And I know she's had minis in a prior series, but I really wasn't aware of what her full origin was until this series.
Me either.
I don't think they really ever put a spotlight on her origin. I mean, that happens a lot of times with mutant characters. You basically find, oh, she's a mutant. No origin necessary. Moving on. You're an X-Men now.
Her origin was set out in a prior miniseries, and I only know that because I flipped through it. I didn't read it because I wasn't terribly interested in what it was showing me. But what I gathered at the time was that, yeah, she was part of a genetics project where they were trying to birth a new mutant weapon. Not grab one like the Weapon X project and augment it. They were trying to actually grow a new type of mutant from the ground up that could be used in, assassinations or military purposes and then mass produce them. Although the prior portrayal, the way I remember it, there was a group of about 24 of them, and it was whittled down over time to just her and a brother at that time. And I don't think it was a character, this prototype that was introduced in this particular 6 issues. I think it was someone else that didn't survive past that miniseries.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
I said, I didn't read it. I just flipped through it and got the gist. It seems like Topaz's entire mission here is just to make Domino suffer for unknown reasons. But the entire time, she has an angry face that, man, it would give Wolverine a run for his money when it comes to a stare-off. I would compare Topaz and Wolverine in the same paragraph when it came to sneers.
Well,
That's fair.
Didn't
Yeah.
she compare her wrath to the Hulk?
She
Well, I
compared
mean-
the rage, but I'm trying to talk about the facial expressions here. Usually when it comes to women in comic books, there's always this feminine quality that usually comes across no matter what the facial expression is. When it comes to Topaz, there is really no gender-specific facial expression here. It's just anger.
Feral.
there's-
It seems feral.
Yeah.
yeah. Desmond had a hard time. I know I'm underscoring that. I mean, not understating that just a bit, but yeah, Desmond had a hard life.
Yeah, but they're still not trying to finish Domino off. They're trying to make her suffer, like long-term
Yes.
suffer.
Yes.
And thankfully, everyone survived because Diamondback noticed explosives somehow, and then Amadeus went Hulk and punched his way through the bottom of the boat, carrying everybody else. Instead of trying to jump over the explosion, he went underneath, which is arguably a bit more risky because of how vibration carries underwater, but, I'm not a physics major.
True, but the water just protects her from all the fire and yeah, never mind.
Yeah, it's column A, column B. What can you say? But Domino decides that she needs to get a better command of her luck abilities if she's going to survive whatever Topaz has coming next, as well as the people around her. And to make a long story short, she goes to China, where she gets to a shack that's surrounded by 5 motley-looking people who look like extras in a Street Fighter game.
Yeah. Pretty
Yeah.
much.
It was not lost on me that it looked like some of them, yeah, they looked like something that came straight out of King of Fighters. And
Yep.
she beats them pretty handily, and that's when they reveal the person inside is Shang-Chi, who is, God, somebody Marvel has tried over and over again to make into a major player in their superhero books.
Hmm.
He was actually part of the Avengers World Initiative. He's a former Avenger.
Really?
Yeah. During the period where there was about
I wasn't familiar with him.
Yeah, during the time there was about 30 of them, he was taken on, I think, as one of Tony Stark's choices between him and Captain America for one of the newer Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave him a new costume, which is where that red and black thing on the next cover from number 4 came from. And he still didn't use any weapons until towards the end of his run in the Avengers team, when he suddenly deployed a pair of nunchucks that not only were they given to him by Tony Stark, but they were charged with repulsor energy.
Very cool.
That's very cool.
So he was extremely dangerous in that moment. To those that aren't aware, Shang-Chi is called one of the best martial artists in the Marvel universe. He's a hand-to-hand kung fu specialist. In his original series, it was just titled The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, but as the years went by, just like every other long-running comic book universe, some of the stories become more and more powerful and exaggerated to the point where this man may be dangerous with a pinky finger.
Yeah,
Basically.
he's Marvel Shiva.
Mm-hmm.
Or Jason Bourne, yeah. Could kill you with a pen kind of thing.
I'm so looking forward to Bullseye in that Daredevil series.
Nice.
Tangent.
A little bit. Issue 4 of Domino is where we find out about the connection between Topaz's charge named Desmond and Domino. And it's a little bit sad because he's the only other survivor of the project that created her. Except his his power and vitality is basically connected to Domino. Every good thing that happens to her, a horrible thing happens to him.
Yeah, it was a really interesting
That-
cause and effect.
Yeah, it's gotta really suck.
Well, considering the kind of life she's led, his life must have been freaking awful.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But it might also explain why Domino's own powers, when good things happen to her, minor bad things happen as well. It could be while Topaz was taking care of Desmond, that little bit of healing was what caused things to happen. Like, Domino avoided being struck by a truck by falling in mud and then ending up with mud down her cleavage. Things like that.
Right.
Domino's first attempt at training, though, when she shows up in this red robe, very reminiscent of Shang-Chi's first appearance.
I was wondering what that was a nod to because I'm not familiar with his character.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
the
yeah.
conversation they have about what she's wearing is
Oh,
it's hysterical and cringeworthy because of the stereotypes.
It's not just the stereotypes, though, because Gail Simone wrote Domino to be very aware of how cheesy she's being. And
Right.
how did you procure this garment? Cosplay website. They have a whole section. Never mind.
Right.
please go on.
Yeah. Well, Super Schmexy Fighters, the Trampy Iron Fist was on sale, but I bought this one. The White Dragon is just pasties in a thong.
And this particular aspect of her personality is actually carried over into the other book that she is in, which is Weapon X. They came up with a new arc on it where, they refresh the team, give them new uniforms and all this stuff. And, the first 2 pages is, Domino going, oh, well, okay, I'm out of here. It's like, well, we're not done. It's like, no, I said I'd do this job, and then I'm out of here. I'm going to get my money, and I'm going to split. And then they start talking about this new job that they're going to get, which is rescuing M. And then Sabretooth starts acting completely against character and showing concern. And Domino picks up on it, and she's like, oh, wait. Oh, you got a girlfriend. Oh, I was going to leave, but now I'm not. I'm totally staying.
I thought Domino was given a great voice by Gail Simone. It's like Shang-Chi finally agrees to train her once she comes back in proper attire. And her first question is, can I wear Trampy Iron Fist? Please do not. And then the inner monologue is, "Oh, I love Trampy Iron Fist. Spoil sport."
Yeah.
I just like that the balance between action and all these horrible things that happen to her is still contrasted with pretty good writing. I like the one-liners and the humor.
Are you kidding? I mean, right after that, it's Diamondback and Outlaw trying to track down Domino, and they've decided to lure the one person who might know where she went, Deadpool, out by dressing provocatively and hanging out outside a Chimichanga's taco truck.
I gotta hand it, Diamondback looks pretty slick.
And Deadpool sets them straight.
Well, he's still predictable.
Yeah.
Lots of
So
snacks
predictable.
and sexy bits,
I'm impressed that he showed up on a red Vespa.
right?
I'm not surprised at all he showed up on Red Vespa.
And the fact that no one's talking about that red Vespa.
Yeah. But Domino and Shang-Chi go through basically a few hours long of a fight. It doesn't seem to be training so much as him just fighting with her. Well, fight may be the wrong word, because as good as she is, she's not in his caliber.
Oh, hell no.
But the deal was, if she tags him once, they get a break of her choice. And all she does is wait until he blinks mid-sentence and then punches him right in the face.
Yeah.
It's a pretty slick way to get what you want. At the same time, Topaz catches up with, not catches up, I should say Diamondback and Outlaw find out where Topaz and Desmond are living and decide to take the fight to them.
Oh, cow pie.
Yeah, a brave but foolish choice.
Yes.
We can go into it a little bit later. But actually, the end of the issue is Domino and Shang-Chi dancing and kissing, and just when it seems like her luck is improving is when assassins show up from Shang-Chi's end of Marvel Comics, except they're here for Domino.
Again, the costumes, the clothing that they're putting these characters in is really good.
Yeah, Baldian, again, not my type of art, but he has an eye for details that a lot of people don't have.
He's got a fashion angle to his art style.
Mm-hmm. He definitely
I like
cares
the-
about what people look like.
Right.
Yeah.
And everybody has a distinct look, a distinct style. Even if they're wearing different outfits, it's still them.
Right.
I have noticed, though, that unless Domino is improvising with her clothes, black and white is like what she's always in.
Yeah. Well, from what I understand, that's actually a thing when you're doing character design, especially like in animation and stuff like that. They stick to a palette of that character. It's like, whenever we're dealing with this particular character, it's going to have these 4 colors or variations of these 4 colors, and we're going to keep it that way. Much the same way when they're creating the shapes for them, they want to give everybody unique silhouettes.
Well, I've only noticed
So-
that for Domino. I mean, Outlaw only has like 1 or 2 outfits because she prefers a roughneck lifestyle. But when it came to Diamondback, she was dressed in all kinds of stuff throughout these 6 issues.
Yeah, but it was all like, high-end stuff, big pinks, bright colors, yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't anything as loud or as obvious as 5 teenagers with attitudes in the same color palette throughout most of their fracking lives. Yeah.
Razor fist. Jesus Christ, how D-list can you be?
Are you kidding? The fact that she was thinking about his sex life in that wow.
Oh, I know. Jesus, Razor fist.
Yeah, but Domino's own discovery of how her powers work, she's dealing with an armada of assassins while Shang-Chi is just staring somebody down, worried because this one person, I don't know if that's literally a brother or a training brother, but he has the ability to kill them both if he's not paying attention. And when she discovers how she can key into her own abilities and make it work for her instead of it being a reflexive one, what happened to those poor men in that room? I almost feel sorry for them. It's like when she leaned down to pick up a tray, and that's when one accidentally blasted the other. Then she tosses a tray over her shoulder, and it deflects a ball and chain into someone else's face. When she knows how to make it work, this could actually be a very deadly ability. At the same time, though, Prototype has gotten the best of Diamondback and stabbed her in the back. But what happened to him afterwards when he's getting ready to teleport away? I almost feel sorry for the man.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But I don't.
Yeah, I mean, they presented Outlaw with a choice. She can either take Diamondback to a medical facility immediately and likely save her life, or stick around and try and finish this fight. But Diamondback removes that choice by just saying, go get them. To which, just before they teleport, Outlaw lands a solid punch in Desmond's face. And I say
Yep.
just before because she hit him as he's dematerializing.
Yep.
Now, isn't the guy in the long jacket? Isn't that Midnight Sun?
No, the guy in the long jacket, that is the doctor that started the whole project that created Domino and Desmond.
And Topaz's father.
Yeah. He's been their prisoner for a while.
Well, no. I'm talking about the long coat, the long cloak, and the hat that Shang-Chi is talking to. Because I know
that guy.
I never learned his name. I know almost nothing about Shang-Chi's end of Marvel Comics outside of what I've read in the encyclopedias.
Well, there was a villain right around the era of Kung Fu in Marvel, which was about 1975, 1977, and there was a character called Midnight Sun that Marvel then kind of made cosmic for a while in Silver Surfer. I don't know if you guys remember this. He had a blue body, but he wore a fedora and he had discs attached to his hands and feet.
I don't know. I don't read cosmic books generally.
I didn't read that one, no.
But the way he's talking to him and the hat he's wearing and the cloak, it makes me think that's Midnight Sun again, and they've kind of uncosmicked him or something.
I could not tell you. I don't know anything about either pantheon. But man, when Desmond's teleportation finished in Hong Kong, what was left of his face was... wow.
Yeah.
It was not pretty. It was like Two-Face.
Yeah, I didn't realize until I reread that issue that after Outlaw hit him, when she's picking up her revolver before she finishes the doctor, that her hand is dripping in something.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and of course she's strong. She just willed into him.
Yeah. I noticed that too, but I didn't say. I was kind of, where is that coming from?
Yeah.
I didn't make the connection till now.
But I mean, the image is pretty bad. It looks like she hit him hard enough to blow off most of the skin on the left side of his face, as well as unhinge his jaw, and you can see the end of the jawbone. It's not like she broke his jaw and the bone's poking out. The bone's the only thing you can see there.
Yeah, she shattered his face.
She degloved it at the very least.
Oh, that's such a disgusting term.
It is. Again, work in the legal profession. See a lot of things I don't need to see. That's what I get. But issue 6, man, the crescendo that this built to was actually pretty impressive. A lot of storylines, if they're 6 issues long, they tend to lose steam, but this one was consistently building.
Mm-hmm. Admittedly, at the beginning of this issue, I laughed so hard I had to stop reading.
Oh, about Adalbert trying to teach the chef on the riverboat what fine dining is all about?
Yeah, teach. Just teach. Actually, at first glance, I thought he was actually trying to prepare the omelets. Then I realized, oh, no, he is chasing that guy out.
Yeah, he's actually telling him as he's going, as if this man's going to learn it as he's running in terror. I didn't quite understand why he was doing that, but he did it.
Well, let's be honest, that guy's not going to forget.
No, and he's also not going to work there again.
No.
But Domino going to the park with Shang-Chi afterwards and then being confronted by Topaz alone. I don't know. I would have liked to have seen Desmond's final death there. It played out real time, but it played out in a bit of a flashback. And, he didn't survive that punch that Outlaw laid on his face.
Yeah.
I imagine this is a bit of a time constraint, so...
Probably a little bit. But the way Topaz and Domino went at it, it was kind of cinema-worthy, the way it played out visually.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the rain started up, they're in a park in the middle of Hong Kong, and Domino is so adamant about trying to win this fight that not only does she knock out Shang-Chi with a blow to the back of the head to keep him from getting hurt, but she's beating Topaz over the head with a piece of a gravestone or monument she broke.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. Just using the gravestone to basically bash her face.
But the conversation between the two of them, Topaz started up with, "You superheroes, you think will's enough. You think spirit is enough. Will won't save you, Nina. Oh, see, lady, that's your mistake. I'm not a superhero. I'm a Disney princess," and whacks her in the face with that stone.
Sorry, I had to laugh at that.
Yeah, everyone in the kingdom loves me. I have a furry animal friend. I just need a wish song. You know, and Simone, I guess, was probably writing this out, and as she wrote it, I think she realized how far off on a tangent she went, because the next piece of inner monologue is, okay, Nina, get a grip. You might be losing it.
Yeah, just a bit.
It's not like she's wrong, though.
Yep.
But that knocked Topaz down, but it didn't knock her out. What knocked her out was Outlaw and Diamondback showing up in a Quinjet of all things.
Crashing the Quinjet.
Yeah, right into her. And that was enough to at least pin her down. But Domino is not... She's right. She's not a superhero, because instead of taking her to any sort of authorities for this fight to begin later, as it's very likely to do if you know anything about comic book nemesis, she elects to take Outlaw's revolvers and just shoot her in the face 12 times.
Because sometimes you just have to. And I think that
that was
heroes...
Yeah, that was a hard edge to the story.
It was, but it also kind of marks an important difference between Domino and 90% of the characters she interacts with. She doesn't consider herself a hero either. She's a merc doing a job.
Yeah, she's a total merc. That's the reason why I wouldn't say I will not say I was surprised by this, but considering the tone of the book up until now, it was a bit of a departure.
It was. It's an important one, though, because it doesn't lose sight of who Domino is. And she responds to a lot of things like Spider-Man. She hides her fear, her anger, and her pain beneath weird quips and humor, mid-fight.
And I do like the fact that there was a repercussion of it, because she decided to kill Topaz. Shang-Chi wanted nothing to do with her.
Yeah. And that's reasonable. Shang-Chi is not somebody who believes in lethality, period.
Yeah, he was kind, but very clear he would no longer train her.
Really, I think they were right. She was right and said Topaz will never stop.
Well, that's the thing. They're both right. I mean, killing somebody is something that should be frowned upon in most circumstances. He's right in that, but, Domino is also correct that Topaz wasn't going to stop until she was annihilated.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Topaz is the type of character that, given her abilities, if she's allowed to come back with more planning, somebody was very likely to die anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a hard choice, but she made it.
Yeah, and from there, the storyline that has been going through all 6 issues kind of wraps up really, probably a little semi-anticlimactically, but it wraps up in just a couple of frames. We're all trying to figure out, is Inez or Rachel having fucked over their friend? Who's the insider? Who ratted them out? And when I heard that was going to be the storyline, I was a little upset because I did not want this trio of heroes to get broken up by something like that. And because I like the story, and I also didn't want the reputation of any one of these characters to get fucked over like this. So I'm glad that Gail took the third route and went with somebody that we didn't even think of, which is that mutant that they pulled in and was working in their kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, what was his name?
Adalbert.
Yes, Adalbert. So I know that they kind of anticlimactically resolved that, but I'm glad that they took that route.
I wouldn't call it anticlimactic. It was almost like the epilogue was a lot like a Gumshoe movie. There were certain things that you may not have keyed into until the very end, and that's when Simone revealed the couple extra items that may have been hanging. But I also think...
Okay, you got a point there. You got a point about the whole Gumshoe wrap-up thing. It didn't even occur to me.
But the other thing is, it also occurred to me in reading these 6 issues and the way it was one cohesive story, Simone may have been writing a little bit defensively. And by that, I mean, Domino has never, again, been featured in a long-standing comic. Her prior series were either miniseries or ended very shortly. So she may have been writing these 6 issues as a potential standalone in case somebody higher up just said, okay, it's not going well, we'll stop here. She wrote
you got a point.
She wrote herself a potential ending, but thankfully the fan fervor behind the first 3 issues was so much that, the book is still ongoing and in future solicits.
It's one of my top 5 favorite books right now. Easily.
So, we've gone through it. We've talked about the major and minor bits. Who would like to sum this up first?
We usually go with the person that's the least connected to the storyline go first. I've noticed that that's a trend.
Okay.
And I think that today that is Jesse.
All right.
I'm actually quite a fan of the artwork here, except for a few facial animations. The guy can do some really good facial work.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic. I like it, except for a few instances of it. It took me a while to get into this story. I think I got into it about 2nd issue. Really loved the self-awareness that Domino had. It's fantastic. And it's awesomely hilarious.
Okay.
And I was I'm a very pessimistic person, but a little bit of depression. But I was kind of connecting on Domino's fears, surprisingly. But overall, I would definitely recommend people read this. Probably give it let's go with an 8.
Okay. Casey.
It's no mystery to anybody that's known me for more than a year that Gail Simone is one of my all-time favorite writers.
What?
If
No.
not, yeah, if not probably my favorite writer. Because as I'm saying that, I can't think of another writer that I would put above her. I just can't.
Okay.
She created Secret Six. She can do no wrong, as far as I'm concerned. But I'm still going to take a critical angle with this as much as I possibly can. First thing I want to talk about is the art. There is a small level of surrealness to it, but it never distracts from what's going on. You never like, oh, that doesn't look like it should. It's conveying the exact emotion that it's supposed to. You know, if like an exaggerated face, just like any kind of cartoonist that has that kind of not leverage, but leeway, you're getting the emotion that they're trying to convey. And that is awesome. The artist also, I notice, excels in fashion, clothes, and hair. A lot of scenes involving women in a variety of different hairstyles, and they all seem unique on their textures, style, and shape. And even in situations like combat, like take for instance the scene where Topaz is getting ready to get shot. You can tell just by looking at her, even without the rain, that the rain has stuck her hair to her face, and that's what you should be gathering as a vote that both these people are rain soaked. That kind of detail I think is really cool. I like the fact that all the characters seem to have unique expressions. The wide shots really work. The way this person draws action and motion really works. And when they're not doing motion and they're just doing like still shots, you know, of like extravagant rooms. I don't know the artist's name. Jeremy, you have to name drop that one on me, but
David Baldeon.
he's exceptionally talented. I really, really like this art. Now, moving on, of course, I think Gail knocked this out of the park. I'm getting the same kind of feel from the characters and the way they interact that I got and loved from Secret Six. Because the whole reason I love Secret Six is because of the way they interacted with each other, like I said when we were doing the beginning of this. And I like the fact that I'm seeing that in bold letters with these women. They all care about each other, and it's all important to the story. You don't want something horrible to happen to one of them because you know the others will be floored by it or traumatized by it, and I like that kind of pathos in a story like this. So that being said, this thing's a 10.
Wow, was that your first 10, Casey?
That's my first 10. This is just
Wow.
a really, really good set of issues, and I can't see any fault in it.
Okay.
I'm shocked. Can I get that recording? Can you make sure that makes the recording? Because he said that he can't see any fault in it.
Why are you shocked? It's not the first 10 that's been on this show.
Is it
No,
the
it's
first 10
not the
coming from
first
Casey?
10. I think it's the first 10 from Casey. It's the first time he couldn't find massive holes in it.
Yeah. I mean, I even gave Preacher a 9. This is my first 10. I'm pretty sure of it.
All right.
Cool.
Well, Joanna, you get to follow that paragraph.
Okay, well, what a paragraph. So everything from the artwork to the writing was just phenomenal, which you would expect from Simone. So I think the thing that stood out the most was the writing to me. I mean, the artwork was phenomenal. Just, you had a cast which included some X-Men, you know, Deadpool, Spider-Man. They all kind of stopped by, had little cameos, but it was kind of in a nonchalant way. I like how they mixed in without being
Overstaying their welcome.
Right, without like, hey, look, the cameo for cameo's sake. That wasn't the case, which was pretty good. I enjoyed this thoroughly. I liked the adventures that Diamondback, um, Domino, and Casey threw me off of her name.
Outlaw.
Outlaw.
Right, because he kept saying. Anyway, I liked the sense of sisterhood they have. They have fun. They do jobs. It gets gritty, but they have each other's back, which is why the idea of the potential betrayal was so shocking. Just, oh no, wait, these are sisters, basically sisters of the craft. The whole story was compelling, and like was mentioned before, just the artwork was great, from the costuming to the action. I felt like the action scenes were as well written as some of the downtime scenes. And that creates this whole picture that was just, like Casey said, it was phenomenal. I also am giving it a 10. Not just because I'm a huge fan of Gail Simone, but because the series really just hit it out of the park, just with everything. Checked all the boxes. I'm probably going to continue reading it if it's, I don't know how many issues are supposed to be in the series, but
well, currently the 6 issues you read are the only ones out, with the exception of the annual. I think issue 7 hits in about a week or 2.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll pick that one up too. Going forward.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was reading up the solicits. Myself, it wasn't quite perfect, but it's really good. Gail Simone knows how to craft her characters and make them 3-dimensional characters instead of just one-off or stereotypes that you've dealt with in a ton of different team books and other comic book companies. As well as she brought new depth to a character that's she's been in Marvel Comics since like 1993. And it perplexes me why no one's ever really tried to write her as a character before. The action is good. The art is pretty good. There's a couple times where I have to take another look at it and really make sure of what I'm looking at, and that's why it wasn't quite perfect for me. But as I said earlier, David Baldeon is not quite my cup of tea, but he is the right type of artist for the type of off-center tale that Gail Simone is telling here. The characters are interesting because they're underutilizing comics, so that means that sometimes you get to fill in the gaps with really interesting items, and that's another thing that Simone excels at, is taking unused characters and giving them a new charge and a new lease on life. If you don't believe me, read The Secret Six, simply because Catman was a joke before that series. Literally. And it almost repositions Domino to take a bigger part in the Marvel Universe, except for the fact that so far, you really just need to allow this spotlight to grow on its own and see where it develops from here. I give it an 8.5. It's not quite a 9. It's definitely not an 8, so I would give it an 8.5. Let me see. I need to go through what I've still got in the hopper, because I still have a number of things available for us to read. We're back to Independence, aren't we?
If we're going by a pattern.
Well, only because I had like 9 different volumes that were up and ready to read by then. Well, I only have one independent right now available for new reading, and that's The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Volume 1.
Absolutely. I vote for that.
The 2017 volume.
Sure, that sounds good.
All right. Sure. So that's what we do next week, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Thank you very much for tuning in. I invite you to come back next week. Hopefully our point total from fantasy football will come up a bit. But I am Jeremy.
I'm Joanna.
Casey.
And Jesse.
Enjoy, everybody. Take care.